connected to iPhone.
The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race.
Should we be fearful of artificial intelligence and the pace at which it's progressing? Or should we fear fear itself and the risk of it stifling innovation?
It will not be man or machine. Our purpose is to augment and really be in service.
According to a recent report published by researchers from the universities of Cambridge and Oxford, OpenAI, and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, there's an assortment of ways AI could go wrong, and in the not-so-distant future. Focusing on what could happen in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, the paper draws attention to what may seem like more prosaic concerns than, for instance, a global takeover by humanoid robots with superintelligence. But whether advances in AI lead to a rise in malicious bots or the weaponizing of consumer drones, just two of the risks listed in the report, we can't help but fear what we don't understand. So, to begin, the experts weigh in. Is artificial intelligence actually intelligent?
I'm Kai-Fu Lee. I run Sinovation Ventures. It's a high-tech venture capital firm in China.
My name is Fei-Fei Li. I'm a professor and director of the Stanford Artificial Intelligence Lab. I'm also currently at Google on my sabbatical from Stanford.
I am Jennifer Ju Scott, co-founder and principal of Radian Partner and Radian Blockchain Venture.
A lot of people ask about AI and whether it's intelligent. I think today's AI, based on the current state of the art, artificial intelligence is really more of an optimizer. It's not intelligent in the same sense that we think of humans as intelligent.
We acquire knowledge, we abstract, we create.
There's emotion involved, and there is judgment involved, and there is creativity involved.
Cross-domain knowledge, common sense, and ability to argue, the ability to understand humor, and also self-awareness and compassion.
Today's machine intelligence is far from that level of complexity.
It's probably not most useful if we generalize AI.
This dude.
AI is an umbrella term from machine learning to deep learning to NLP, which is natural language processing, to reinforcement learning. There are many different technologies coming into this umbrella. And right now we're at the stage where AI is very good at doing one single task.
You're nuts, just like my trail mix.
And repeats the task really, really well.
The consensus among these experts is that AI is far from reaching human general intelligence. Currently, AI is a collection of techniques which cleverly uses math to create the appearance of intelligence. That, along with the appearance of emotional intelligence, shows that we need to build an ethical compass into these systems, or, at the least, developers have to use one in order to avoid unanticipated outcomes. But wherever this may be heading, the march of progress shows few signs of slowing down. And who's at the forefront of these advances? Kai-Fu Lee names the internet giants holding the largest amounts of user-generated data. Companies such as Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, as well as Baidu, Tencent, and Alibaba. It's important to note
I'm fighting against the globalists.
4 are American, and
we on the
3
same
Chinese.
team, man.
A near
We are
even split, revealing just how fiercely competitive the field of AI has become. Over the summer, the Chinese government pledged to become the world's primary AI innovation center by 2030.
That's why you gotta
The US still leads in
pay attention to who's getting control of this, all this AI shit,
several
yo.
key factors may enable China to push ahead.
I think, it's quite interesting to see the duopoly.
Because any technology is able to be weaponized. I don't give a fuck what it is. They try to make a weapon out of everything. And if you don't think they're going to try to weaponize super smart algorithms or AI or general AIs and shit like that, get the fuck, man. Like they said, China might be already on some shit, not even telling people how close they are to creating a general AI.
Between U.S. and China.
China is very interesting. It's my home country, and I see with lots of energy where things are in China.
If we look at the top 100 people in AI, US probably has 80, UK and Canada probably have 15, China might have 2. On the other hand, China has 4 things going for it. Number one is that China has a huge, very strong engineering education and a mass of people with fantastic engineering training who are ready, able, willing to jump into AI.
Its economy is very entrepreneurial right now, so there's an embracement of new technology and new ideas, and that is a very fertile playground for new technology.
The third reason is the vast amount of data. Data is the fuel for AI, and China has more data than anybody else. 3 times more data because of 3 times more mobile users compared to the United States. It's actually 10 times more data in terms of ordering takeout, 50 times more data in terms of mobile payments.
The fourth would be that there's a lot of support, both top-down and bottom-up in the society for AI technology and education.
The government will put billions of dollars, not at the country level, but at the per city level, to help subsidize AI companies land, take off, and also bring back overseas talent.
I think the 2 countries, no doubt, have become AI superpower, but they are 2 very different beasts. In the US, we have companies like Boston Dynamics, DeepMind now is effectively an American company, and you have companies like, Hanson Robotics, etc. What they're producing is very inspiring, it's very futuristic. Some might argue it's slightly scary, especially with Boston Dynamics. When you see the robotics can do all this. At the same time, most of the people, including myself, we haven't really seen their products being used by everyone. And the difference in China is the engineers and developers in China are very practical. If what they're developing cannot be commercialized in the next year or 2, they would not develop it. And then in the US, you see very advanced research being very well funded. That's probably going to be playing a dominant role in the next 10, 15, 30 years.
One such American endeavor showing promise is being led by Rita Singh and her team of researchers at Carnegie Mellon. They're building AI-powered technology that analyzes the human voice. Why? Because our voices carry a lot of valuable information. Indeed, so much information that Singh can construct a 3-dimensional image of a person's face by studying the voice alone.
Your voice carries a lot of information about you, an enormous amount of information. Everything about your physical stature, your facial structure, your ethnicity, what's going on in your body, your state of health, state of mental health, physical health, your income levels. It captures everything that influences your body and mind and is evident in your surroundings. This information is embedded at very, very fine levels, micro levels in the speech signal.
This technology, says Singh, could have many applications in medicine and is already being employed by law enforcement to help identify criminals. Not only would it likely reshape the future, but also perhaps the past.
I was curious to know what made Hitler so powerful. Was it because he said the right things? He was at the right place at the right time? I think the speculation is that it might have been something in his voice. And so I picked up Hitler's voice, and the first thing I discovered that there were signs of Parkinson's. He would hold his fists clenched like this. That was to hide a small tremor that he had developed. And from that kind of evidence, people have speculated that he might have had Parkinson's.
So what's the likelihood to get Parkinson's?
I think 100% from his voice. I've seen it in his voice. It's clear.
How does the AI behind voice profiling fit into the big picture? With its incredible power and potential for misuse, this technology reveals the urgency in establishing best practices across the field. As the use of AI in criminal justice is just one of the ways in which injustice has been recognized from the use of biased datasets. But returning to the original question of whether or not AI is on track towards achieving superintelligence, that remains to be seen.
AI is such a young field. It's only about 60 years old from ground zero to where we are today. From that point of view, we have come a long way.
I think it's better to think about artificial intelligence as a single domain optimizer, and that in itself has huge implications, but it is not human all-encompassing intelligence which we call artificial general intelligence. There's various disagreement and debate on whether artificial general intelligence is ever possible and how long it will take. I'm personally a pessimist on achieving that level of intelligence, but I am an optimist on even today's single domain narrow intelligence creating huge societal impact.
Artificial intelligence is about learning and making the right decisions using what you've learned. We're at a point where we have the understanding now to do this, and therefore we are in the new AI era.
You walk into any retail store, you know that there are cameras over there. You know, over the last 2 years or so, the ability for computers to recognize faces exceeded the ability of human beings to recognize faces. So those cameras now have the ability to know who you are, and they have the ability now to interface with the registers where you buy things and to keep track of what you bought. Give it 5 or 10 years, and you'll be walking up to the counters, and you'll have ads being served to you based on your buying habits and based on your interests. So the entire retail experience begins to change because you have customized coupons, customized ads, all being served to you as you walk in there. But then also the sensors I talked about, the cameras, they can also detect inventory. They can see what's on the shelf, how much of it has been sold. You know, until today, we've had human beings going and doing inventory checks every 2 or 3 days ago and see what needs to be stacked and so on. But with these cameras, they can keep track of what's on the shelves, and they can automatically order new replenishments as needed. And then when I have robots, they can go and replenish the shelves. Rather than human beings going and stacking, our cereal boxes, imagine you had robots that can do that. Already there are a number of robotic technologies that can go in and do this thing. But give it 5 or 7 years, we'll have robots replenishing shelves, we'll have sensors and AI monitoring inventory. Move forward a couple of years. Virtual reality is going to become much more powerful. Imagine wearing eyeglasses that turn dark and take you into holographic worlds. Imagine now being able to meet people wherever you want to and being able to converse with them as if you were there. Imagine now being able to go into a store and now pick and choose what you want from it, being able to examine the merchandise and just say, okay, I'll take it. And imagine having it droned over to your house. Let me switch gears now and talk about saving the world. Because I live in Silicon Valley, and frankly I get depressed at the fact that there are tens of billions of dollars being thrown at mindless apps. Then what happens is that some kid comes up with some new stupid app, and he gets $100 million in funding, and other VCs throw another $100 million at competitors, and we're basically chasing rainbows in Silicon Valley and not understanding the problems of the world. I was born in India. I traveled the world, and when I go there, I see poverty, I see despair. I see people living in ill health. I see hunger. I see disease. I see I see people getting sick because of bad water. And it's depressing to see that. Living in Silicon Valley, we're blessed. Living in New York City, you're blessed because you have everything you need. We see poverty and we ignore it, but by and large, we're not sensitive to the needs of the world. You travel to the developing world, you see the dire poverty and the pain and suffering. But you know something? I believe that in the next 10 or 15 years, we can solve virtually all of these problems that are hurting people so much. The biggest problem is energy. When people in remote parts of India, Africa, South America come home, they can't study because they don't have light. This is something we can't comprehend in America, that you don't have light, you can't study, therefore children don't get education. But this is a common problem in the developing world. 88% of the infectious disease in the developing world is caused by waterborne viruses. You know, when you went to school, you learned how to distill water. What do? You boil it, you capture the condensation, and that's distilled water. Distilled water is 100% pure. There's nothing living in it. Right? Now, all it takes to have 100% clean water, to boil the oceans and have all the water we need, is energy. The trouble is that energy has been so expensive. Well, guess what? That's changing. We're headed into an era of unlimited, clean, and almost free energy. Here's what's happening. Solar, wind. Take solar as an example. The cost of solar has dropped 99% since 1976. And what happens is that as the price drops, the installations double. As the installations double, the price drops. We're in a virtuous cycle over here of exponential technology advances. At the pace we're going, we're only about 6 doublings away from having the capability of generating 100% of the Earth's energy needs through solar. This sounds crazy, and the doublings are happening less than every 2 years from now. So what I'm saying is that by 2030 or so, we could have unlimited clean energy on this planet from sunlight. And the cost will be a fraction of what it is today. Imagine 1/16th of what it is today, 1/30th of what it is today. You know, in less than 15 years from now. This seems crazy, this seems unimaginable, but all you have to do is look at the data, look at the trend. It is as clear as can be. Now, in America, we're regressing because you now have the US government, and when I say US government, I mean Donald Trump, talking about bringing coal back. He's talking about stopping the progress of solar energy because it disrupts US unemployment. This is complete nonsense. I mean, solar is generating more jobs than coal ever had. And this is good for America, it's good for the world. But regardless, leave America aside. America is not relevant anymore. The really good news over here is that America isn't leading the world anymore. It's China, number one. They have committed to, I think, 200 gigawatts in the next 5 or 7 years. And India, number two, they're talking about 100 gigawatts. We're talking about, you know, the 2 largest population countries in the world now leading the path on solar. And even if America decides to bring coal back and set up coal-fired plants, it doesn't matter. The world will simply laugh at us. The cost of solar will still advance. And the beauty of this is that every village in the world will now have light. Now, the challenge over here is that you need to store the energy because the sun doesn't shine when it's not sunny. The wind doesn't blow when it's not windy. But the good thing is that the cost of storage is also dropping exponentially. We used to talk about $300, $400, $500 a kilowatt hour for storage. Elon Musk is hinting at $100 a kilowatt hour in the next 3 or 4 years. And it can go to $70 a kilowatt hour. When you talk about prices such as that, you're talking about self-driving electric cars costing about $15,000, $20,000, being able to drive 200 miles by the mid-2020s. 2025, we could have cars that cost $15,000 and go 100, 200 miles. We're talking about now having enough storage for a village for a couple of $1,000s. So which means that you could have entire villages, entire towns all over the world which are off the grid and have unlimited clean energy. So now we can have unlimited clean water because we could just boil the oceans. We can now have lights so that children can come home and study. And we can educate them because they'll also have smartphones that provide them with knowledge. We can now have diagnostic devices which provide them with information so that they can get on their smartphone and get health. They can have vertical farms. This is another amazing technology that we don't talk very much about in the United States, but vertical farming is now advancing exponentially because of 2 or 3 different convergences. First of all, LED lighting. We don't seem to understand that LED lighting now has cost about the same as these old bulbs we had, the Edison bulbs. In the developing world, they're even cheaper. And LED lighting, there was a Nobel Prize 2 years ago for LED lighting. There have been such amazing breakthroughs in LED lighting so that you can now tune the frequencies to the growth of plants. So you can now have inexpensive energy, LED lights, and now you can also have sensors, when I mean sensors, cameras, and other devices which monitor crop growth, which monitor the growth of every plant, give them exactly the right nutrients. Glass houses, so you're talking about organic food. We will be able to grow almost unlimited food because of these advances in energy, LED lighting, AI, and sensors. That's in the next 5 or 10 years. So we could literally have a planet that's abundant in energy, in food that has perfect health, in which we can 3D print our own clothing. All of these things are within reach. Now let me get to the dark side of all this. I talked about the advances in AI and robotics, in sensors, industry disruptions. Despite what the
Belgium, what up, yo? What up, everybody?
Valley says, I don't see a scenario in which we'll have enough jobs for human beings. That yes, there will be new jobs created, Zumba dancers and God knows what else. All these stupid examples that tech moguls throw up about the new jobs that will be created. The fact is that these Uber drivers, these taxi drivers in New York City, even the Uber drivers that we have here now, when their jobs get displaced, there aren't going to be new jobs for them. The truck drivers, we're talking about 3 million truck drivers just in the United States. When we have self-driving trucks, which is very likely in the next 5 years or so, those middle-aged truck drivers who don't have other skills than driving are not going to be able to learn how to program robots or how to do Zumba dancing. Those truck drivers will be unemployed. We're talking about people whose livelihood depends on jobs, whose social stature depends on jobs. I mean, think about it. When we meet each other, almost the first question we ask is, what do you do? We're defined by our jobs, and we take pride and creativity in our work, and our lives revolve around our work. What happens when the work disappears? Even if you have all the energy you want, all the food you want, you have perfect health, you have all the things you need, you're able to 3D print your food and clothing and all that. If you have all of those things taken care of, you have nothing to do. You feel depressed. What's the new social stature over here? What do we do with ourselves? So Silicon Valley talks about universal basic income. That's their excuse for saying it's someone else's problem. It'll be okay, let us get filthy rich and let someone else worry about the problem. We can just give money to everyone. No, people just don't want money. People want a purpose in life. They want to be contributing to society. They want to be doing good. They want to be earning their keep. They don't want free money. Next, 10, 15 years, I worry about, and even as soon as 5 years, I worry about millions of people, tens of millions of people becoming unemployed, becoming depressed, and really rebelling. That go back to the Luddite movements who tried to stop the progress of technology because their livelihoods were being taken away. I worry about this dark scenario. I worry about them wanting to burn down the tech companies and to stop progress at all costs because their jobs are being taken away. Strikes, just like you had strikes in Paris, taxi drivers trying to burn down Ubers. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's trying to stop Ubers. You may have that in New York City. You may have people whose lives have been, displaced. You may have people who have lost their livelihoods now, getting angrier and protesting. Look at what's happening in D.C. We have a government that's pandering to the extremist groups, to the anger, right? I mean, it was unimaginable, even 2 years ago, that we would be accusing the White House of being Nazi sympathizers. I mean, this is craziness. I mean, the allegations are not founded, but the fact that we can even make those allegations shows that something is wrong over here. That the gap between the haves and the have-nots has grown not only in money, which is what we used to talk about before, but also in knowledge, in culture, in values. People who are watching this are technology literate. That you get your information online, you watch videos such as this, and you stay up to date with this. The people in middle America, the truck drivers, the taxi drivers, many of them don't watch this. And they're not up to date. We're doing nothing to mitigate the gap. There are policymakers that are talking about taking things away, taking healthcare away from people, taking benefits away from people. They're not talking about how do we now uplift all of mankind. They think we have limited resources and therefore we have to ration them. But they don't seem to realize that we're headed into an era of abundance in which we can now distribute the prosperity we're creating and uplift all of mankind. That's good.
Go-getters, get two with Dunkin' Go-Tos.
Oh, that is good.
2 sandwiches for $2, $3, or $5. America runs on Dunkin'.
In my book, The Driver and the Driverless Car, I try to look at technology through three lenses. And the purpose of this was to figure out how we can create the amazing future of Star Trek versus the darkness of Mad Max. The three lenses are, number one, does the technology have the potential to benefit everyone equally? Can we make sure that everyone gets good health care from it? Can we make sure that everyone gets clean energy from it? Can we make sure that everyone benefits from the technology so that we don't have people being left out and we don't have anger brewing? You know, go back to movies such as War of the Worlds. Go back to a lot of these science fiction horror movies. In these movies, the rich had access to better technology. They had health. They had, you know, all sorts of good things. The poor had nothing. They were working in the mines. The outcome was always the same in all of these movies, that the poor ended up killing the rich. Mad Max. That the anger started brewing and rebellion started, and the focus was to destroy technology, to kill the rich, basically. This is what happens in all of these dark movies. If we don't now start educating and uplifting everyone, we're going to have Mad Max. The second lens is, do the rewards outweigh the risks? Is this technology going to benefit us or is it going to hurt us? We have to look at every technology to make sure that the rewards outweigh the risks. You know, for example, gene editing, CRISPR. We now have the ability to alter life itself. In about a decade from now, we will have the ability to select the features that our children have. This sounds crazy, but we may be able to take pills that alter the genome of an embryo and give them new characteristics to remove disease and to give them maybe extra IQ. This is all becoming possible. Now the question is, if you do that, do you now create the world of Gattaca, that movie Gattaca, in which you had people who were enhanced, and then you had people who weren't enhanced, and the people who were enhanced were based on society. And guess what? The people who weren't enhanced rebelled. Are we now creating killer viruses? Are we now creating massive joblessness? Are we now creating all of these new nightmares with technologies? Do the rewards truly outweigh the risks? And then the question is, does the technology create autonomy or autonomy? And I'm a big fan of self-driving cars. I drive a Tesla model.
Nope.
And I can't wait to get into auto drive when I get on the highway, because I want the car to drive itself. Now eventually, when I say eventually, probably 10, 15 years from now, we're going to be deciding that we don't want these dangerous human beings on the road. These human beings get distracted, they text while they're driving, they get angry, they get road rage, they rush into traffic at the same time, they crash into each other. They're dangerous. We don't want these dangerous animals on our roads. Instead, we want to have smart AI and robots doing the driving. So we may throw the human beings off the road, which means that we've lost autonomy. Right? We get angry. Gone are the thrills of driving. So on the one hand, self-driving cars give us autonomy. Why autonomy? Because everyone now can get from anywhere they want to be to everywhere they want to be safely. Mothers can send their children to school knowing that they'll safely arrive there. The blind, the people who are handicapped, the old, don't have to worry about having to drive anymore. We have autonomy like we've never had before because of self-driving cars. But then we lose another autonomy. That autonomy is the right of being able to drive on our highways. So you have a trade-off over here. The question is, does technology lead to dependence or autonomy? In the case of self-driving cars, it's both dependence and autonomy at the same time. But we've got to figure this out. We've got to figure out what the trade-offs are. So what I posit in Driver in the Driverless Car is that we have to look at each technology through these three lenses. And what I sincerely believe, is that if we get these right, that if we now benefit everyone and we do things in a sensible way, we can create the amazing future of Star Trek. That we really can get to this world in which we're now sharing prosperity, we're seeking enlightenment and knowledge, we're working to uplift humanity, and we can do this 300 years ahead of schedule.
Technology, bitches. Alright, give me like another, like 10 more minutes, guys. 10 more minutes. Yeah, 10 more minutes. 10 minutes. Just trying to find something to listen to.
The paradoxes of time travel.
Paradoxes of time travel.
If one day we discover that traveling through time is as easy as moving left and right, forward and backwards, or up and down, then what ramifications would this have for our temporal existence? At present, we live, we reproduce, and we die. But if time travel were possible, how might this sequence become jumbled? Would there be any strange complications? What are the paradoxes of time travel? Number 4, the grandfather paradox. The most commonly cited paradox involving time travel describes how you could erase yourself from...
Is ready? I'm coming. Oh shit, guys. My dinner's ready. I got to go eat. And I have work tomorrow. So I'm going to try to get back in here one more time tonight before it gets too late. Y'all like these Jordans, yo? I got 2 pair of these shits. I got these right here, the red, white, and black ones. And then I got an all-white pair. I don't hardly see nobody wearing these shits, though. These been, like, I don't know. Like, the regular J's, I don't really fuck with them shits, man. Them shits don't look right. But these shits right here look like some ninja shoes. I was like, oh, shit. Them Jordans? Man, let me get a pair of them things. Let me see how they rock. Then I like them shits. I like how they feel and shit. I was like, yeah, boy. Let me get another pair of these things. I got 2 pair, and I got my son a pair. All right. Boozy, you know it. Yeah, let me go eat some dinner. Oh damn. Let me clean these, make sure I get all my brushes clean first. That don't look clean and that don't look clean. Alright. Dang. That shit is coming out pretty good, son. That shit is looking hot, yo. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep working on the shoes. Get the 2 shoes done, and then come back and start adding some highlights on the chair. And by the time I get the shoes in the chair and add some highlights on the glass piece, the skin should be dry. Yeah, that's still wet. The skin should be dry by then. I'll come back and add some more highlights to the skin. And this piece is almost done, yo. I do like how it's turning out, though. It's pretty slick, if I do say so myself. And after I finish all this, there's just a few spots around the the outlines where I need to touch up with the green, then it'll be a wrap, son. Then I'll be on to the next one. Yeah, I appreciate everybody chilling with me, man. If this your first time in the stream, definitely go to one of my links and check out the rest of my my art, yo. Say it's 5. I'll probably be back in here in a couple hours, like 6 or 7 probably, and try to paint for another hour or two, and try to finish the sole of this shoe, and start working on the black part of that shoe. I'll get at y'all next time, yo. Peace.